Okay, I love that voice every time. So if you are new, welcome. Hexagon, we are a nonprofit and a community of women and non-binary people in the UX industry who are supporting each other through events like these and sharing our own experiences. This is your Design-a-thon team. I am one of the co-leads for our events teams, and these are all my other team members. You may have heard Jen Chain talking earlier. We also have Allison here. And then we do have a guest speaker today. I will not speak too much for her, but she was a participant last year, and she had a portfolio project from the event that helped her land this job. And so I'm going to turn it over to Trinicia for her to share a little bit more.
Hi, Hexagon UX Houston. This is, I go by Nisi, but Trinicia is my first name. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to speak. I actually reached out to everyone to the board members, Jen in particular, because she was actually my teammate last year in the previous Hexagon design hackathon, because I felt so strongly about this program and this organization, because it really, really helped me feel confident and comfortable in landing in UX and eventually landing in a position at Amazon as the UX design and research. I'll just take about a few minutes and tell you a little bit about more so why I went into UX design, how Hexagon and the hackathon helped me, and then a little bit of advice for some of you guys who may feel a little bit hesitant about this because you may not have done this before, or you are nervous, to kind of ease your mind about really jumping in there and seeing how you can reap the benefits. So for me, I was a teacher before, and it's funny that one of you guys said that you wanted to be a fashion designer. I actually was a fashion design teacher. Before this, I went to school for fashion design at LSU. And I eventually did some work in New York. I came to Houston and did some interning. I worked for a few companies here, and corporate America and the structure and the pay was just not what I thought it would be. It's not as glamorous as you thought, as you think. So I eventually, my mom was a teacher, and it's like, why don't you try teaching? It's stable. It'll help you kind of figure out what you want to do, in life. It'll get you, your foot in the door. So after a couple of years, I eventually landed as a fashion design teacher at a local high school here in Houston. I'm not sure how many of you guys here are in Houston in particular. I know last year we had some people who were like from all over. So it's really cool in a virtual sense, you're able to do that. But here in Houston, some of the high schools have, like, especially I was in Sci-Fair, have very specialized CATE programs. So I actually taught fashion design as a teacher at one of the high schools. So that's a really cool thing that I didn't have growing up. So I gave back and did that for about 7 years. And eventually I was starting to learn a lot about technology and seeing how, my creative side could end up going into the technology field, especially as it was growing, because it wasn't there when I was in school. So I ended up going to back to school for web design. And I thought, oh, I'm going to be a web designer. It really becomes more of my creative side. And I'm still, doing a little bit of coding, but still the front end. I had a teacher that taught me computer science at Lone Star College. And she really urged me to go to the Grace Hopper convention. I'm not sure if you guys know, it's the Grace Hopper celebration. It was here in Houston, I believe in 2018, which was really cool. And I was able to take a couple of days and do that. And received I believe it was called underserved representatives or underserved minority scholarship to go for that one, because she helped me do my essay and whatnot for that. It was an amazing experience, and I'm actually, full circle moment, met someone from Amazon at that place at the celebration, and she actually was in UX design. And I was able to talk with her a little bit because she was in one of the fashion tech workshops that I eventually was sitting in, and we randomly were talking, and she handed me her card and she's like, "Hi, I work at Amazon." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're like a celebrity to me," because I never in a million years thought I'd meet someone who would work there, or that I even had the chance to be a part of that. And I really didn't know much about UX design, so I started to research more. As I did, I found that Houston had some meetups, and I saw that Hexagon was one, and I really enjoyed that it was through women, like more so and non-binary, and it really was geared towards just our set of, you didn't feel intimidated by those men that come in with the bravado and are like, "Oh, I know everything." And it's like, okay. So I feel really comfortable when I went to my first event. I believe it was, gosh, it was such a long time ago, but I remember us talking about jobs to be done. It was one of those. And I just felt so comfortable. I met another teacher there who was actually trying to get into UX design. So me, that was trying to get into UX design. It was really, really cool to meet people who were trying to transition like me. So from there, I took a boot camp called Skill Crush, but it was something that was self-paced, so I didn't have a class. It wasn't me talking to other people or doing group work. So when Hexagon ended up, I went through the mentorship with Hexagon, which I also, shameless plug, would say, sure, if you have not done a mentorship through Hexagon, apply. If you don't get in this time, apply again, because I did it 2 times and I finally did it, and it was an asset to me. When I got into this Hexagon design hackathon, I saw that it was available. I was really, really nervous, y'all. Oh my gosh, I was like, oh my gosh, never done anything like this with other people before. But I said, if I'm going to be confident, then I'm going to just take the leap and do so. So I ended up joining, and it was our team was called Healthcare for the Forgotten. It was, some women who had already been in the industry for a while. So it was a little intimidating, but then there were some people like me and Jen and another, one of our other friends who we had not had a UX design position before, but we were trying. And so I will say it was an amazing experience, because I applied a lot of the things from my boot camp into what I was learning, into actually doing a project. They taught me so much. I was able to understand the full design process hands-on. So yeah, that's how I landed there. So I'll start with kind of like some advice and kind of like how it really helped me. So I really learned a lot about just if you don't really know what you're doing, say you've never done a usability test before, you've never moderated a usability test before, join that team. If you guys break up into little teams or say these 2 people are doing that, do it, because you can honestly never know if you're gonna like it or if you're really good at it. And I actually realized I like usability testing and a lot of more of the research side. So I'm actually going to be jumping more into the research side for this, for my apprenticeship. And also keep up with your fellow teammates, because they're like your net. It's like a network of people that you've worked with that can vouch for you, because they know what you can do. I've kept up with everyone that has gone on, and we've all gone and gotten UX positions. Me and one of the other teammates, we also took it a step further, and she did a design system for it. And then I went on and did the prototyping and developed some more screens and flows for the project that we did. And we kind of collaborated together as a team. And when I ended up speaking about my project, the people at Amazon were so impressed that I basically took the ownership and went a little bit further, and that I had never done something like that before, and took the leap and jumped in and did it. And interestingly enough, I'm going into Amazon Care. And last year our hackathon was about equity healthcare in healthcare. And so yeah, it was a moment with that. And last thing, those of you, if you are someone who is experienced, be mindful that people on your team are not, and they're not as confident, but use this time to be a teacher. If you can teach someone how to do something, then that means you're an expert at doing it, or you're really good at it. So try to be a teacher and help them along the way, and understand that they're not as confident, but this can help them be confident. And if you're someone who's just learning, be open to teaching and open to, like I said, jumping in and learning something new, because this is an opportunity that you may not ever have. I don't really see many designers or many design, any design sprints this way. So I really appreciate that Hexagon UX Houston does something like this, because it gives you guys an opportunity to really dive in, jump in, and kind of work in a setting that you may not have worked before. So I said I would, I'll go ahead and drop my LinkedIn in there. This isn't about like the Amazon apprenticeship or anything, and I'm not plugging that, but I know some of you might have questions. So I'll drop my LinkedIn in the chat, and I'll also send it over to the Hexagon board members if you guys are interested in talking more about the experience. If you have questions once you are going through this, I'll try to pop in. I may not join a team, but I will be available and probably join some of the office hours and things like that, because I really feel passionate about you guys working hard at this. And I really hope that all of you benefit from this, whether you win or lose or however it goes at the end. Just know that the experience is what you're here for. So thank you so much, and I hope that y'all got something from my little talk.
Thank you so much, Nisi. I love that. Yeah, hopefully you all had some sort of takeaway. And like she said, we're all here for the experience. Don't want you focusing too much on like winning, but more so that you kind of understand the design thinking methodology that we'll introduce, and get that teamwork experience. So we're going to get into our challenge, our problem statement, but first I wanted to share a few fails and wins. So if you've read the meetup description, I'm assuming you have, but we're going to be talking about e-commerce and problems in that problem space. And I just wanted to, this isn't all Amazon. Amazon's not the only one that does this, but I just happened to find these pictures with Amazon boxes. But point out that this, someone posted on the blog of their packaging fail, and it was 3 pairs of socks wrapped in 7 feet of, I think they're called like air pockets, in a medium-sized box. So wasteful, first of all. Like if you think about it, they're socks. They're not like breakable or anything. They could have been in an envelope. And so that really makes me stop and think, like, who decided that was a good idea? And then there's this example where the product is already in its own packaging, and then it was in the yellow envelope, and then it was in a medium-sized box, still with packing paper. And so, again, not to like hit on Amazon, but I did go through like their pages, because I'm like, they have to have like some sort of policies. Like, why are things being packed this way? And they do have like, they have a whole sustainability like sub-site where they list all their initiatives and stuff like that. So they have a process, and they are like, constantly changing things and updating, but this really bothers me, which is why I'm really excited about this challenge, because it's so unnecessary. And so in my research, I found a couple of companies who are really conscious of this and really out there making a difference. So Lush is something that I'm super familiar with. You may have seen it in the mall. But Lush, they sell body care, different cosmetics, and they're known for having products without any type of packaging. So if you were to go on their website, and you can, of course, click this link, it'll take you right to their page. You'll see that they have like bath bombs, shampoo bars, conditioner bars. And when you go on their stores, there's no packaging. You just pick it up, which germaphobe me is like, I don't know, but like they're not wasting plastic or anything. Like just take it home and, use right away, nothing to throw away. Another company I found, which is really cool, is Reformation. This is actually a picture that I found of someone, who bought their product. On the bag, you may notice it says, "This is a vegetable." That's because they use biodegradable products in their packaging bags, which I thought was super unique. Didn't think anything like that exists. And so these bags are 100% compostable. I know they are phasing out. When I was looking through their like how it works type of page on their website, I believe clicking this link will take you directly there too. And then they are working with, I think it's called biodegradable polymer bags, which is Not sure. It's a product that they mix with plastic, and so it just breaks down faster instead of like a few years, instead of like hundreds of years, you know? And so they're out there changing the packaging game. Um, and then there's plain products. And so with this company, they use recyclable aluminum containers to ship, you know, shampoo, body wash, other body care products. And then the cool thing about them is you can order your refill, but you can also get a discount if you send back your empty bottles, and then they just reuse those bottles. So yeah, oh, Meredith uses. Oh my God, that's awesome. Cool. This is a brand new company to me. But yeah, Meredith says she uses it. So I'm interested. Are you part of their like refill program? I thought that was super unique. That's not something you see other companies doing too much. And so again, all these companies, they're conscious and doing their part of reducing plastic, you know, reusing. We all know the saying, reduce, reuse, recycle. And so these are just some examples I wanted to point out, and maybe for you to go in and look up for any ideas or inspiration. Okay, Meredith is saving her box so she can do so in the future. That's super cool. And so the problem statement and challenge that we want to present to you today is, how might we reimagine a system that can help reduce single-use packaging from e-commerce? I have some links and the guidelines that we'll share later, but there's a few articles that talked about, you know, the e-commerce world a little bit before the pandemic, and then how it has like drastically, like the problems have just drastically increased during the pandemic because everyone was online shopping, and people who didn't have like conscious systems in place really struggled and made things worse. So there are some articles for you to reference, but I did want to share some things for you to ponder on, also to get inspiration from. First, look to your own experiences and desires. Think about what you're doing. Like I said, I've been frustrated with, you know, packages from Amazon and other companies because of all the waste I get. And so that was naturally my first thought. So think about your own experiences. In this day and age, we all want everything fast and convenient for us, but think about, you know, what is the cost to the environment and all living beings, us humans and animals, and how they're being affected. I know we all hear about, you know, the turtles and the oceans and plastic wrapping around their neck and, you know, things like that. So that's be something you can have in mind. Also think about the pyramid of everything, the manufacturers, the e-tailers and stores, us as consumers. How can we further reduce, reuse, and recycle? You can start there as a starting point. What is one company doing that maybe they can do better? And then, like I mentioned with Reformation, their biodegradable technology, how else could that be used? Where else could it be used? So I just want to, yes, the mirror link is in the chat above. Thank you, Meredith, for linking it. I can also save this as a PDF and attach it to our Notion and our Google Doc guidelines. So like I mentioned earlier, we are using the design thinking methodology. We do have some pre-recorded workshops that kind of walks you through this process with some activities, but of course you'll be free to do your own activities using this method. But if you're unfamiliar with it, basically this process walks you through understanding the user all the way to testing it and validating your solution. So Empathize, this is where you want to do your research, make sure you actually understand what your target users are feeling, thinking, what are they saying about the problem space, and then you want to further define the problem. And then after you get your problem statement, then you want to ideate, create some, think of solutions, you know, try not to try not to feel like pressure to come up with like the perfect one, just whatever ideas you have, be open still at this stage. And then you will work with your team to kind of narrow down, maybe prioritize a solution that you want to go ahead and then prototype and then test. And then lastly, implement doesn't really apply to us here. This is just Design-a-thon, but in the real world, you will implement, and then as you can see these arrows, you'll probably just go back, do some more testing, make sure it actually solves your users' problems. And then as you can see, it's just you'll loop back through each stage. So it's not really linear. It's very much a circular cycle, and pretty much never ending. So, all right, so a few things to know before we get into forming our teams. So you are forming your own teams. We're not assigning you a team. We will have a social at the end in GatherTown. And if you're unfamiliar with GatherTown, it's just an online platform where you have a little avatar and you can walk around, and as you move closer to someone, then your camera will pop up. And it's supposed to like mimic the real world when you're going like from group to group and having a conversation. So we thought that would be a fun way for you all to get to know each other. And then we'll have boards below where you can all like put your names and your contact info. And then that way we know who's on who, and it makes it easy for us to track the teams. The second thing I want to mention is your solution must be some sort of digital prototype. It does not have to be an app. I don't want to, we don't want to restrict you to making an app. An app is not always the right solution for something, but for the sake of this event, it must be digitally prototyped. And then lastly, we will have different forms of support. In addition to having mentors for you all, we do have a Slack channel called Design-a-thon 2022. If you're not part of a Slack, then we can add our link into the chat for you. Jen, if you could do that real quick, please. Awesome. So join that channel, and then we'll be monitoring it for any questions you may have. And then, of course, like I said, we will have mentors for you. So today's our kickoff. We talked about the challenge. We're going to do our team formation in a little bit. And next week, we have 2 days of optional in-person office hour sessions. You're not required to come to these, but if you want to meet your team in person, if you want to meet with your team in person, we are hosting a space thanks to Kiara and her company Spark. They are sponsoring this space, so thank you and shout out to them. At the Ion in downtown Houston. That info is also in our meetup page. Those pages are there. And we do ask that if you are interested, or even if you think you're interested, that you do RSVP to those by Sunday, tomorrow by noon. And then we will also have virtual sessions for you to meet with your mentors. The assignments are going to come after the event. And when we get down to the team boards, I'll show you there will be a team captain, but this team captain is only to be our point of contact. And that's who we'll contact about your mentors. And then lastly, we'll have our showcase next Saturday. We'll have each team present, and then we'll have a community vote. And so everyone will vote on their favorite project. And then we'll also gather feedback for the teams. And yeah, our winners will be announced the following Monday with prizes. If you want a further day-by-day breakdown, we do have a suggested timeline in the guidelines for you to follow. And so we just ask that you use that as a starting point to help manage your time. You only have a week, and there's quite a bit to do. So we do have that for you. And then we want to open the floor. Does anyone have any questions so far? And I'm going to look in the chat too. I saw that was, let's see. No questions? Okay. I'm going to move on. Oh, how many people to a team? So ideally we want 3 to 5, but we ask no more than 6. We find just large groups are kind of harder to manage, and then there's a lot of moving pieces. So we ask no more than 6, but 3 to 5 ideally. Anything else? Cool. So these are the team boards that I was referring to earlier. You're just gonna come in and click a sticky note and leave your name and contact info. And then once your team forms and you'll have your first meeting, we would love for you to name your team, and you can come back and put that here. I'm going to zoom out a bit. Let's see. So you can share whatever contact info you feel comfortable with, your email, your phone number, or your Slack name. You all can create a Slack group message, however, whatever works best for you all. And then we just do ask that you join a team by the end of our social today. It will end at 1 p.m. Well, of course you can stay in GatherTown if you want to, but officially our social will end at 1 p.m. and we do ask that you join a team by then, just so we can get a head count and know how many teams to expect. And so here are some next steps for you. Meet us in GatherTown. This is a direct link to the headquarters there. Once you get there, you'll be in a room, you'll see Avatar, you may be like, what the heck? Just use your arrow keys on your keyboard to move around. And then you also see the arrows on the floor. They say office hours, just because it's pre-set up into different rooms, but you can just walk down until you see everyone else. And like I just said, join the team at the end of social. Once you join your team, get together and talk about your first meeting and go through the guidelines together. We tried to be really thorough and anticipate any needs, give suggestions, just really give you a good jumping off point. But of course, if you do have any questions, we do have that Slack channel where you can just reach out to any events team member directly too. And then lastly, we do ask that you RSVP to the in-person office hours. These are direct links to the meetup links. Please RSVP by noon tomorrow, just because Kiara really needs a head count before then. All right, any questions? And Jen's posting those links in the chat, thank you.
I have a question. Curious, so teams will form just by discussing ideas in GatherTown and deciding which ideas they like best. Is that the idea?
Yeah, meet with one another. Any ideas that you have, please share. And if you find people like, oh, that's cool, I'm interested in that too, form a team. Yes. Anything else?
I guess one more. Any tips, I guess, on digital prototypes for, it sort of feels like service design if taking on packaging. So that would be something, I guess, more in the physical space. So any ideas on how you're wanting that to be interpreted digitally?
Yeah, so you can create something like a storyboard to present. In the storyboard, basically, think of animators, how they draw each scene of the show or something. Kind of do that with your solution. So, just illustrate step by step of how your solution would work. That's one way to do it. I know there are also a few tools, I think Envision, I want to say Envision. You can upload images there, and if you want to create some sort of flow with your illustrations, you can do that there. I believe so, don't quote me. But that's one idea. Let's see.
I just had an idea, maybe like, because I know everyone's probably like more familiar with Amazon. So I wonder if like a redesign of Amazon would work. I mean, it's just the idea just came to my head just now. What do you think?
The redesign of Amazon's what?
Like checkout process where you can choose other options that would reduce the packaging or something like that. Or not Amazon, could be any website, but it's just like a redesign based on the current flow. What do you think?
Yeah, that's an idea. Hope that answer your question, Meredith.
I think
that's
also
great.
Jen, when you were saying that, kind of like you guys can also think of like the back end, like of the logistics, because there's different segments, like the logistics part of certain companies, like the people who package it, like maybe you can even think of how they would interact digitally with a product in order to help them understand like how to package something or reduce packaging.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's a cool idea. Alrighty. There are no more questions, then I'm gonna hop over to Gather Town. And I hope I see you all there. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Let's see.